Hi, my lord. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. You were Chief of Staff during Theresa May's reign when she was Conservative Prime Minister. Would this have happened under your watch?
I don't think it would have happened under Theresa's watch, no. I don't think it would have happened under any of the other Prime Ministers I can think of during my lifetime. And I thought that the report yesterday was pretty grim reading, Kay. It obviously told us a number of things that we already knew, but to me, the two new things were evidence of officials in Number 10 knowing that what was going on was wrong. That phrase you mentioned a few minutes ago, we think we've got away with it. And also the frankly shocking reporting of cleaners and security staff being abused. I mean, I can tell you my 2 years in that building, doing a very difficult job under enormous pressure. I cannot tell you how supportive the security staff, the cleaners, the catering staff, the duty clerks were of me. And I find it shocking that staff in Number 10 can have behaved towards them in that way.
Steve Barclay telling us this morning it's a warren, it's a small building, it's very difficult to know what is going on unless you are in the room. Was that your view when you were there?
So it is a bit of a warren, but you know we've had whistleblower evidence, the Panorama programme the other night, of officials in Number 10 saying the Prime Minister saw these drinks going on. Sometimes he joined in, sometimes he didn't, but he was aware of exactly what was happening. And I think one of the real problems he's going to have now is whether people are going to say, well, actually, some of your statements to the House of Commons expressing surprise at these allegations, you were misleading the House because you were at some of them and others you were clearly aware that what was going on.
We're hearing that Wine Time Friday was at 4 p.m. every Friday, had been a regular occurrence in Downing Street for some time. Did it happen when you were there? Yeah,
so sometimes the comms team would have a drink on a Friday afternoon. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in a normal working environment. The key point here is that this was a pandemic and that the government had changed the rules for all of us and told us that meeting people other than strictly necessary for work purposes wasn't allowed. So, you know, obviously when I was at Number 10, there was a work Christmas party. Sometimes on a Friday evening, people would have a drink together after work. Nothing wrong with that at all. The point here is that the situation was different. The Prime Minister made some draconian restrictions on all our lives. And now we discover that he and the team in Number 10 weren't following the rules that everyone else was being required to follow.
Talk to me about Martin Reynolds. He was the private secretary to the Prime Minister. He's still a civil servant. He seems to be copying it as far as the WhatsApp groups, etc., are concerned, and the report from Sue Gray. Suggestions that he may well become an ambassador in Saudi Arabia. How can that be reasonable when we saw what happened to Allegra Stratton?
Well, look, I don't know Martin, and I don't want him to be the fall guy for all of this process. I think he's got some real questions to answer about some of the material that's come forward. But in the House yesterday, the Prime Minister said all of the senior management at Number 10 has changed. Well, that's true, apart from him. And you know, if you look at the police fines, okay, we obviously don't know all of the names of the individuals, but there's something pretty distasteful that it appears to be the case that fairly junior officials have borne the brunt of most of these fines when they were attending events that were organised and attended by sometimes the Prime Minister and other senior political advisors and officials in Number 10.
Who should be the fall guy, do you think?
I've made my view clear before. I think the Prime Minister has fallen well below the standards that we all have a right to expect to him. And from a simple moral point of view, something like 60% of the British population thinks he should resign, and I am one of them. I also think pragmatically, from the Conservative Party's point of view, he's not going to be able to recover his standing with the electorate. And if they carry on without a change, then I fear they're looking towards a defeat at the next election.
Can you see a scenario, my lord, in which he will resign, or will he be that a slippery piglet that David Cameron often spoke of?
Yeah, I can't see this. I don't see any prospect at all of him resigning over this. There was a lot of talk of apology yesterday. But if you actually watch the press conference yesterday afternoon, he doesn't really think he's done anything wrong. Now, he was saying, well, I think I was right to go to these leaving dues, despite the fact that, you know, he put in place regulations that were stopping some of your viewers being at the deathbed of dying relatives. So I'm afraid I don't think there's any real contrition there, and I don't see any prospect at all of him resigning. So it's either going to be Conservative MPs deciding that he should go, or it's going to be a decision for all of us at the next election.
I know you've got a meeting, so we'll have to go, my lord, but just one final question, if I may. What about if the Standards Committee finds against him?
So I think if he's found to have misled the House, I would hope, Kay, that would be enough to drive Conservative MPs to act. But we'll have to see, because if I'd spoken to you a couple of months ago, I would have told you that the police finding him and finding that he'd broken the law would have been enough. And it turned out that wasn't.
OK, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure.